Good afternoon, Houston. My name is Charles Loretto. I have been a speaker there at your school for 10 plus years, and I'm known through the dental industry of this motivational lecture that you're about ready to hear, and it is on why you need to own a business. And you can obviously see by my background that I'm not down the street from you. I'm in one of my favorite places on the planet. It's Avon, Colorado. It's a city, little town right between Beaver Creek and Vail. Best friend lives here, and so what's great about COVID that has impacted me on a positive side is the fact that I've been working remote for the last 7 months now. So that's where I am today, and be here for another week or so before I head back, home to Plano, Texas. So we've got a good 40 minutes lined up. I am very punctual. I will make sure we're done around that 11:40 time frame, and then see if we can open up and unmute everybody for any questions that we have. So let's get this thing rolling. So good news is we're recording this via Zoom, and you'll be able to watch that. You can also hear this lecture. Just type in my last name, Loretto, and why you must own, and it'll pop up. And so learning objectives today is we're going to teach you why you need to own a business. We'll talk about how to do it, key decisions to get right in your career. Dental school debt is it's not your number one goal. Debt. We'll talk about some practices that are for sale. We'll talk about practices in partnership. I even got some strategies on how you're going to do this ownership thing. So prior to COVID, we recognize there's 5 reasons you must own a business. Number 1 reason is you make more money. Simple. Number 2 reason you build equity in the business. Number 3, you're better prepared for retirement. 4, you have tax planning, which is going to be your number 1 issue. You don't know that yet, but taxes will become your number 1 issue. The 5th reason you own a business is you're in control of your own destiny. You're determining the hiring and the firing. What we learned during this process was you may think that, hey, I'm just going to be an associate, and that's not much risk there, and I'll just make some money and pay down debt. This is not a solution for you. It's a short-term solution, not a long-term solution. You recognize, your colleagues recognize that have graduated ahead of you, that they were the first person to be let go, okay, as an associate, the first person to let go. The government stepped in and assisted all these business owners and to help them. And so they gave that to the owner, not to the associate. You got little $1,000 checks. They literally got hundreds of thousands of dollars of checks to help them through this crisis. So there's definitely a reason to own this business. You're going to come out of school and you're going to recognize that you're going to do basically 2 things when you work in a dental practice. And depending, some of you may go to specialty, but today's focus is going to be about just general dentistry. When you come out, you're going to work in a practice, and you're essentially going to be checking hygiene, and you're going to be providing dentistry in your operative chairs. So what's taking place here is you're going to be very slow, especially the D4s that are listening, even slower, because perhaps your requirements are even less this year. The number of patients you got to see are less. So what happens is you're going to be slow. But for my goals for you is you get out of dental school, by December, you're doing at least $30,000 of operative. That's how you're going to get paid out of your operative. 40,000, 50,000, 60,000. The best advice I can give you is to go work at the busiest possible practice ever. And get good training. And so if that's at a private practice, great. That's at a corporate practice, great. I just need to get your speed up. Fast forward, you're going to be able to do $60,000 of clinical dentistry. Your new norm, your pay is between 25 to 30%. In this example, I'm showing you're making 27%. 27% times 60,000 times the 12 months you're working will equate to $200,000. You're all going to make good money as an associate. What I'm trying to make sure you fully understand is what you're leaving on the table. What you're leaving on the table is a massive amount of cash, because what you have to understand is that when you're doing the operative, that's all you're doing. And so if you're doing $60,000 of clinical dentistry a month, then you're also checking about $20,000 a month in hygiene. The ratio is typically about 75% doctor, 25% hygiene, 66% doctor, 33% hygiene. So if you're doing 60,000 clinical, you're basically doing about $23,000 of hygiene. That math basically means that you're basically working or running $1 million practice. How much would you own if you just own? How much would you make if you own the thing? Twice as much money. In this example here, you would make $420,000 with a 58% overhead on that $1 million practice. This is $200,000. $200,000 times the 30 years. It's $6 million more that you're going to make as an owner. This is a no-brainer that you're doing this, okay? This corporate's coming in and scaring the pants off of you and telling you can't do it. You don't have the experience. We're growing. This is how it's going to work. Come work for us. It's a bunch of baloney. And they're selling you this, and you're believing that you can't do this. And I'm telling you, as an owner of a CPA firm, we're the largest CPA firm in the country that gives advice to dentists. We work with 2,300 dental practices. Our average GP makes over $500,000. Average GP. So you see the signs up, oh, our average, dentist makes 200,000 or 250. Okay, 300,000. I don't give a crap. If they make 300,000, it tells me they're working ridiculously hard to make that. And they're still checking hygiene at that office. And they don't have control of the equity of what it's worth. They can't maybe grow the practice and bring an associate and sell it to somebody. They can't grow the practice and maybe sell it to a private equity group and make a lot of money. They can't do anything because you're not an owner. So number two reason is you're building equity in this business. You make more money, you're building equity in this business. Number three is that you have to understand you got to prepare for retirement. Now, when you're 26, 27, 28 years old, the last thing you're thinking about is retirement. But you're entering a profession that's going to be physically demanding on your body, okay? And I need for you to focus on the fact that you're going to do clinical dentistry, check hygiene. How do I make the most money doing that? And then from that, I know I'm going to have some tax issues. I know I have some retirement issues, and I need a balanced life along this journey. And so this slide is basically setting you up to say, okay, what does this look like for me from a financial planning standpoint? I'm going to be 30 maybe when I start my quote unquote dental career, probably more like 26 to 27. More than likely, you have no money. More than likely, you can look up historic information. Historic information tells us that the cost of goods and services today are going to be more expensive tomorrow. So it just means that, milk, bread, housing, tomorrow, 30 years from now, going to be twice expensive. So today I met my good friend, Tom Dunn, here in Beaver Creek, and I don't know, maybe his house is worth $1 million. If you look back in time, maybe this house 30 years ago wasn't $500,000. Maybe it was like 200,000 or 300,000. It's because this particular economy here in a ski resort has gone up faster. Maybe inflation rate of 4 or 5%, kind of like the cost of school has gone up faster. But there's certain things that are lower. Average is 2.5%. It's important to know. Average return on investment in the stock market for 100 years is over 8%. Average inflation, stuff's gonna be more expensive. 100 years, 2.5%. It's important to know that. It's important to know that when you save money, you want to save it in the right environment. That's the tax-deferred environment. It's important to know that one day when your kids are out of college and you got your debt paid, what's your lifestyle going to be like? Are you going to be coming up and hanging out here in Beaver Creek, and you're going to be going to the Ritz-Carlton, getting a spa day? You're going to be drinking this wine? Are you going to, get this lift ticket? You're going to be driving these cars? I don't know. I can't tell you what your life's going to be. I can tell you what my life is. And I spent a lot of money, but I made a lot of money, and I have a financial plan. And so what I thought I was going to maybe spend in my retirement is more, because I didn't know how well I was going to do. I'm telling you right now, you're going to do really, really well. And I'm telling you from a budgetary standpoint, budget that you'll spend $15,000 a month in pre-tax dollars today. And that $15,000 is going to equate to $30,000 a year that you'll need to spend. The reason I'm saying that you're going to need to budget somewhere that you'll spend $15,000 a month in your lifestyle when you're in your 60s is because my average Kane Waters client is spending that. So if you know it's 15,000, you know inflation is at 2.5%, you know that that 15,000 is going to be $30,000 that you'll need to have a check when you're not doing dentistry. And if you know you need $30,000 a month, $360,000 a year to have this kind of lifestyle that's today that you can visualize that perhaps your parents are spending. In this case, I'm telling you what dentists are spending that we work with. You'll need to accumulate $8.5 million during this journey between 30 and 60. It's a real number, okay? And it's not a made up number. It's not an estimate. It's a real number. And for you to do that, for you to achieve this goal of getting to this $8 million, there's several things that you've got to understand. You've got to play this game right. You've got to get out of school. You've got to get some experience, and you've got to own a business. You've got to make more money. And now if you're making more money for the same work and responsibility, then your issue becomes taxes. I'm going to show you your taxes here in a second. So if you make a lot of money and taxes are your problem, who's your best friend? The retirement vehicle. So I'm going to ask you to save $70,000 a year to prepare for retirement. But make no mistake about it, the $70,000 number is a ridiculous number and it scares you. The $8 million is a ridiculous number and it scares you. Got it. I've done this lecture to over 30,000 students. So what you need to know is I'm not telling you to save $70,000 until you're an owner. Until you're an owner and you make a lot of money, $300,000+ a year. Because when you make that kind of money, your issues are taxes. So if you save $70,000 a year for these 30 years, you save $2 million. $2 million is a tax deduction. So you technically didn't even save $2 million. You saved like $1.4 million. And the taxes, the federal government, state government, they kicked in and gave you money. And then compounding interest was the other $6 million that you gained through this journey. Nobody with great wealth has ever put a bunch of money in their pension plan and regretted it. No one has ever put money in these pension plans and said that was a bad idea. The worst financial decision you can ever make in your life is to not invest in the 401k profit sharing plan and to take money from it. Look it up for yourself. Your taxes are going to be this. It's going to be a ginormous part of your plan. All you need to do is make 200 grand as a single person to recognize that you're going to be in a 35% federal bracket. Okay. So if you make 300 grand, that last $93,000 that you made was 35%. Now we're in a state that doesn't have state tax. Okay. But there are other states all around this country that have state taxes. These state taxes could be anywhere between, 5 to as much as 13%. So you start looking at now paying 50% tax. You've got most certainly a new president that's going to come in. Most certainly he's already have tax projections that, are going to be higher than this. And obviously this has to get through the House and the Senate, but we have taxes are going to be a problem. All right. This is just something that you're going to face. How do you combat taxes? You need to own a business. When you own a business, there's so many cool things you need. You put your spouse, you can put kids, you can run cars through, you can run discretionary things from meals. You're always trying to think like, what can I run through the business? That's the advantage of being the business owner. The last thing that the reason you're business owner, you're in charge of your own destiny. You get to hire, you get to fire, you get to raise fees. You get to, in this case for dentistry, decide if you're going to be a PPO provider, decide which ones make sense, decide that you want to work 3 days a week, decide that you want to work 3 days a week and have a work-life balance, decide that you want to partner with another person and the two of you together want to work. And now you can share this small facility and make it extremely profitable, make twice as money that you would, and you share that and become partners and have maybe, I don't know, a couple of kids each and balance this whole thing out. There's so much creativity when you are the owner, and do not let people tell you that this is not possible. This is 100% possible. You find me a 30-year-old that bought one of these practices that's failing, okay? The reason dentistry is so successful is because it's got this model and this plan that's been, we've been watching for 30 years as a CPA firm. You do very well. And it's not just Charles, oh, he just seems all positive. And banks are the ones telling you that you're successful. Banks are telling you that you have a 99% success rate in paying back the loan. This is a very safe industry to be in. It's a #1 profession to be in, according to some of these like USA Today type reports, as far as what your capabilities are and the demand to try to get into dentistry. You've done so well to get here. Okay, just don't leave this, I don't know if I can do it. I'm a science mind and not a business mind. I think I'm going to work from corporate. Surround yourself with professionals to help and guide you and push you through this process, and make your days efficient with good technology, and make the patients come in, eventually do the exact dentistry you want to do. You get to do all that, have to get to play this game of controlling your life, but it has to start with, you know, the understanding and the why you need to be an owner. And so you make more money, you build equity in the business, great tax planning, great pension planning, prepare for retirement, and controlling your own destiny. So this is the reason of why you're doing this. Now, this part here is going to mess with you. When you get out of school, your first concept is, I just want to pay down debt. I get it. That's an emotional reaction to your $300,000, $400,000 of debt, whatever the number is. It's an emotional reaction. The reality is, I need for you to understand how important cash is. When you get out of school, get that experience, I need to get some cash. You need liquidity. The reason you need liquidity, because you're going to buy a business. If you don't have cash, you are broke. If you're broke, you can't buy a business. So banks require that you will need a minimum 5% liquidity. And then as soon as COVID happened in March, banks froze what they were doing in lending. They said, well, I don't want to lend anymore. I don't want to lend. And then a couple of months went by, they're like, we're ready to lend. But now we don't think you need 5% liquidity. We think you need 10% liquidity. All right. So this is the first time I'm going to promote this podcast. This podcast, one of the things that I'm most proud that I've ever done in my business career is put together this simple little podcast. So if you go to your iPhone here and type in 3 letters into any podcast app, you type in the letters NDP. There's no commercials on there. I'm not getting paid in any other way. It's educational content. And one of the episodes is, banking. Okay. I've done another episode on banking post-COVID. And so it'll talk to you about what they're looking for: liquidity, experience, and basically they're looking at revolving debt, and they're looking at the business you're buying. These episodes will start to teach you this. And I've got over 54 episodes recorded, and we crossed 90,000 plays on this podcast just in 2 years. So it is super, fun. My colleague Christy and I, we do this every 2 weeks, and it's just been, again, very rewarding thing that we've been able to do. And so again, banks, we want to look at something a little differently. And, now we need to start looking at perhaps you might need more liquidity. So save the cash when you get out, pay minimal on the dental school debt, regardless that it's going to be at a 6%, rate of return that you got to pay back. Because here's the math. This is a math decision. So the math is very simple. Okay. You're going to be, you're Johnny, I'm Charles. Johnny was not watching this today. Okay. Johnny showed up for the free sandwich and old school days and was sitting in the back and, I don't know, playing around on TikTok or some social media and didn't pay attention. Johnny didn't pay attention. So Johnny's emotions and Johnny's friends and Facebook all told him to pay down his debt. Charles was paying attention today. Okay. I got out of school, $400,000 debt, $400,000 debt. Married a kid. I can do $60,000 in clinical dentistry. He can do $60,000 of clinical dentistry. Okay. Johnny wants to pay down debt. So Johnny pays down debt. Takes his income or takes his debt from $400 to $350, but Johnny is broke. 1 year later, I still have $400,000 of dental school debt. I've got $50,000 of cash. Now I want to buy a business. The business is $1 million business. Can I do the dentistry? Yep. I'm doing 60,000 of clinical dentistries. I can do the work. How much is the business? $800,000. Hey, Johnny, would you like to buy the business? Yes, I'm ready to be an owner. I hate working at corporate. Oh, let me look at your, you have experience? Yes, 1 year, and I can do 60,000 clinical. Yo, that looks good. Let's take a look at practice. It looks very profitable. It makes $450,000. Yes, I want to buy it. It looks really good. Okay, can we see your liquidity? Well, I don't have any because I've been paying down debt. How much did this cost, Johnny, in this example? $250,000 is how much it cost him, because the business makes $450. How much is he making? $200. What's more important? The $50,000 that you bought off on debt at 6%. That's $3,000 that you quote unquote saved. Which is more important, that or the $250 you would have made as an owner? I'm a math guy. That's the answer. So 400,000, 300,000 of debt, we're going to tackle debt. But if you need to do it in this order, number one, get the experience and get the cash, and you understand the why now. 2, go buy the business. 3, understand that if it's a smaller business, let's grow it. Let's put great marketing and technology and let's make our day efficient and make some money while we're at work. Now that we make money, what's our biggest issue? Taxes. How do you manage taxes? You own the business. What's the biggest tax deduction you can take? The pension plan. How much can you put in there? $70,000+. Great. Now it's going to get me to a retirement. Step 6, pay debts that don't make any sense. What is that debt? Student debt. Home debt's good. Business debt's good. The building debt's good. Student debt bad? Yes. But do you pay that first? No, you pay it last, because I got to take all my business deductions. Because remember, you're going to be in this high tax bracket between, just on the federal side, minimum 35% to as much as 37%, to projections to be, if it got passed, up to 40%. So we got the why. That's good. So check. Charles, I'm ready to be an owner. Now we're going to focus on the how. And this is the podcast that's telling you how to become an owner. This is the most popular podcast episode. This is, how do I do it? How do I find these practices that, that I'm looking on the internet? I mean, Charles, I'm typing in on my phone, like dental practice for sale. And I talked to the broker, and the broker said, that, I don't have enough experience. The broker said this, broker said whatever you wanted to say, because, you're one of a million, okay? Because it's on the internet. What you need to do is take the broker out of it. You actually need to communicate directly to the seller. Okay, so I just got out of school, got some experience, I got some cash, I want to buy a business. Let's start talking about how to create that opportunity. So you got to get to know some people. How are you going to get to know people? You're going to do it through this mail campaign. And what this mail campaign is going to start to tell you how to do is you're going to create an opportunity for yourself. So if you'll notice, this is a 9x12 yellow envelope. This stands out. So don't try to do your own method. This method is the one that works. Yellow envelopes. Go to Amazon and type in yellow envelope 9x12 and order a couple hundred of them. Have them delivered. Get a Sharpie, get a to and a from. You're a doctor, you're going to mail to another doctor. Personal and confidential is right there. Tape on the back. I have on the blog, on the NDP site, it literally walks you through how to do this. No one has ever done this mail campaign and said, Charles, that was a waste of time. It's going to create an opportunity for you. Inside, if you're going back to Medford, Oregon, that's where you're from, and there's 50 dentists and 80 dentists from there. You're going to have a picture of you and maybe your spouse and the dog and the kid or whatever from UT and saying, hey, I grew up in Medford, Oregon, and this is where I'm going. And, I'm looking for an opportunity and I want to become an owner and whatever this is. And now your phone, email, or whatever is going to ring from this process. You're going to put the CV inside of this. The cover letter is going to be personalized. Again, go to the NDP blog, teach you how to do this. And what that is, you got to do it, and you're going to get about a 6 to 7% rate of return. So if you mail 100 letters, 6 people are going to call you back and say, hey, I got your letter. I'd like to talk to you. This is an amazing return on investment for direct mail. Okay. If you do white letters and you don't have this personal and confidential, it's just going to be inside. It's going to be to the doctor. The person who opens that mail is the front desk. Front desk opens it and sees that you're trying to go for a job there, rip it up, trash, move on back to business. Yellow, confidential, giant, to the doctor, from another doctor with tape on it. That's going to be opened by the doctor. And so the doctor says, man, this COVID thing is just freaking me out. This, my health, my wife, maybe she's an oral surgeon. Now she's making $1 million and we got 3 kids, and maybe it makes more sense just for me to sell my GP practice. I don't know. Okay. But what I do know is that you got to create these opportunities on your own, because if you're relying on the internet, everyone can see it, and a great practice is going to be taken up. It's just going to be a bidding war for you. So remove that process, build a relationship with these people. This crap works. Okay. I trust me. It works. I will fly to wherever you are, take you to the nicest steak restaurant, best bottle of wine. If you said I mailed 200 with all this, you call them, you email them, you became a salesperson to create your opportunity, you're going to find an opportunity. But you cannot have worked this hard to get to where you are and just rely on maybe luck that you're going to find this amazing fee-for-service practice that's looking for you. You got to create that relationship yourself. So now that we're motivated, next episode is going to teach you how to ask for the financials. There's a lot of language skills that we're teaching you here in how to communicate to these doctors. It's like a dating service. Like, we need to prep you before you go on the date. We've got to get you ready. We've got to, say the right things to win the girl over, or say the right things to win the guy over. And this is where you're going to build relationships with them and say all the right things during the meeting. But eventually you need to ask for the right information so we can understand what this opportunity is in this business. And if they have a valuation, fantastic. If not, perhaps they're going to have just some of the business financials. These could be tax returns. It could be profit and loss statements. Episode 4 talks about that. Episode 4 will talk about if it's a specialty practice or a GP practice placing implants, to be able to get not just the doctor, a production provider report to see who's doing the work, but actually the procedures. So we can look inside to see what the practice is actually doing to know what you can and cannot do. Or perhaps they're not doing these procedures, and perhaps you're Invisalign trained, perhaps you're implant trained, perhaps you see the practice doing these basic procedures. Bam, let's now go into do a chart audit. That's another episode, and teach you how to look at the charts and perhaps see that all these procedures are being referred out that you can do. So even if these businesses that perhaps may have a high cost, or the guy wants to hold on to the building or a partnership or something like that, if we can see the business is not fully utilized and maximized, and we can maybe think you're going to grow it, let's assess that together. So these episodes are teaching you that process. I got an episode on the building and the lease, partnerships, acquisitions, if we're going to do like mergers and like staggered sales. So it's basically this old gray-haired guy that has all this knowledge in this one tiny little space of dentistry. This is my like thing that I'm good at. The rest of the stuff, probably ask my wife and my children, and maybe, I don't know, my employees, what I'm good at. This is my good. Sometimes I'm not good at other things, but I'm good at this. And if you can just follow along this process, I can assure you, you'll have a greater probability of doing really well in life as a dentist and a business owner. I'm not a big fan of starting a practice from scratch. So all I'm going to ask you to do on this particular slide is just go to the episode and listen to it. The quick version here is, if you have no debt and you're married to a pediatric dentist, or married to a surgeon or a endodontist, or perhaps you're going to go into one of those specialties and you're going to start as a pediatric dentist or surgeon. Okay, I got that, because I know those practices start off so well. They just like jump out of the gate. And so, but if you're a general dentist, you're going to do a startup practice, you better have a business plan. You better have great marketing to get this business up and going. If you're going to join a practice, in this case, you're going to be an associate, then I want the practice numbers to support you. And what I mean by that is, if a partnership in this example is where you're going to be working with somebody and you're going to work with them for 5 years or greater, that's a partnership. Okay. Anything less than 5 years, like associate 1, 2, 3, and then buy in and buy them out, I call that just a staggered sell. So I'd look at a staggered sell numbers different than a partnership. These are partnership. This is where we're going to be together long periods of time. This business is doing $1.2 million. This business has a 55% overhead. This business has 40 new patients a month and is booked out in doctor and booked out in hygiene. And the doctor's financial plan is where they're going to give you $100,000 guaranteed to come in the practice as a base and to help grow this business. Here's all the procedures, and here's all the marketing we're not doing. It's amazing, because this business is going to take off. It's just going to jump. Got a young man I'm working with right now, got out of dental school, and he made a mistake. If he would have been listening to his podcast, he would not have made this mistake. So he had a chance to buy the business. It was doing $1 million. And the seller said, hey, we'll sell it to you for $800,000. Oh no, I'm too young and I can't do it. I get it. I agree with him at that point as a D4. Couldn't get the loan anyway, but I would have got in writing, if I was him, that I will be purchasing a practice in 1 year, and here's the price. This business now is doing $1.4 million. Guess what the price is now? 2 years later, $1.4 million. The price went from 800 to 1.4, $600,000 that this person is now going to charge this buyer. Now the buyer could choose to walk away. The reality is this practice has an amazing overhead, like about 50% right now. And it's actually growing. We're doing like 150 a month. So I actually can see this business next year probably doing about a 1.7, 1.8 number. So it is a high price, but I'm going to show this person that it still makes sense. Now I'm not going to force him, I'm just going to show him the math and he can decide what he wants to do. But his wife is from there. They're happy. And he just regrets the decision about buying in, but you got to get past it. He's still 29-year-old young man and has the opportunity to make $600,000+ a year buying this thing. Even at $1.4 million debt, he's going to make 400. Still makes sense. Still makes sense to do this. So looking at the business, listen to this episode to make sure do the numbers in the practice support you if we're going to go through a partnership is very important. Base salaries I talk about as well. Partnerships we're going to talk about, like, how you're brought into the practice, how new patient flow is going to you. We need to talk about insurance plans. Just there needs to be a business plan of how to bring you into this fold. Let's buy a practice real quick, and I want to make sure we got plenty of time for Q&A. So here's a practice that is for sale, and I want us to think about this is the basic, like fundamental, process I want you to go through. So you look at a business in dentistry, you're asking some basics. Hey, how much does this thing do? Adjusted production is $1 million. Collection is $999,000 for, it does $1 million. What's the overhead? Overhead is 60%. It makes 400. Okay. Can you do the dentistry? Okay. What we talked about, 75% of the practice, 70% of the practice, somewhere in this range is the amount of dentistry. And then the remaining 25 to 30% is the hygiene. Can you do the dentistry? What do you think I'm going to ask you? How much you producing a month, Johnny? Well, I do about 60,000. Is that at a Medicaid practice, or is this an adult clinical practice where you've been doing crown and bridge and you've got skill sets there? Because that's what you're buying over here. No, it's an adult practice, and I can do 60 to 70 a month, and actually could probably do more than that because I did 8,000 of clinical yesterday. Perfect. Okay. How much are you going to net after debt service? Well, I don't know. What's the price of this practice? So the $1 million practice, a general rule, is that about 80% of the top line number is going to be the price. It's going to vary. Listen to other episodes. So $1 million practice is going to be for sale at 800 grand. So how much is the debt on the 800 grand? Remember, the bank's going to look at you. You got the cash? Yes or no? You do dentistry? Yes. You got 50, 60,000 cash? Yes. Price is 800. It's great practice, good overhead. Good job. They're going to give you the money. But now you need to pay debt. The debt service is going to be over 10 years. 4% interest is going to now make you pay $100,000 a year to the bank for the $800,000 business you just bought. What's it gross? $1 million. What's it net? 400 grand. Can you do dentistry? Yes. How much is that net after debt service? 300 grand. Does $300,000 make sense? Yes. For the most part, if a man's buying this business, he better look at his wife and say, do you like this location? Okay. If the woman's buying the location, she didn't even ask the man because she's going to be there for a reason because she already likes the location. So this is I talk about, like, where do you want to go? I'm like, well, where's your wife want to go? Are you single? Then of course we have the whole country to play with, but women are very talented and they usually get what they want, and location is key. And with that, I get it. You need to surround yourself with family, especially as you're going to, if you plan on having children, you need family to support that because raising kids is a very rewarding, but also very demanding profession of being this parent. Surround yourself with family to help because it'll help keep you more sane, less sane. I'm not really sure, but it's a tough task. Older parents can joke about it now, but it is a grind going through this process of raising kids. So family is important to me. Where your location is, the right practice. These are all things that have a nice work-life balance. So I've got all these things we're going to think about before we buy a business. So again, go through and watch some of these, just listen to some of these episodes. They're good for walks. On the actual NDP site, it kind of walks you through the topic of that day and gets you so you can kind of follow along that way as well. So talked about earlier, the practice values, they're going to vary. So one business that does $1 million may have a price of 800. Another practice that's Medicaid kids in rural Georgia, that's outdated equipment and just looks like crap, the same business could be $1 million and makes $500,000, could value at 400,000 because it has to do with the risk. And there's just, you know, I don't like dealing, if you're dealing with all of your business coming from the state or all of your business to insurance, they're controlling how your business is going to be ran. So in this case, a Medicaid practice, the state's telling you how things are going to go. Now, I like giving stuff away. I like being generous. And as a dentist, you can choose how to give dentistry away. Take on Medicaid, you can give more to your church. So I'm all about giving. I just like to manage what I'm giving, and I want to be in control. So let's buy this practice real quick, and let's see what this looks like. So this is a practice very, very similar to the practice I told you about, the guy. He's actually in Virginia. This is in Dallas. So the guy in Virginia, remember, he got into the practice. It was $1 million. Hey, do you want to buy it for 800? And he said, no. This practice was doing 800. Guy says, hey, you want to buy the business? Yes. How much? 600. Okay. I want to buy this business. We're going to do it in 2 years. Yes. 600,000. Good. You know, like written it down at least. 18 months later, young guy from Baylor calls me and says, hey, out here in, you know, Longview, Texas, and the practice is doing like $1.2 million. We came up with this price a couple of years ago or 18 months ago at 600 grand. And so it's doing pretty well. I was like, well, let me see the financials. I look at the financials. It's an amazing overhead. This thing makes more than 50%. Now it's got the outdated crap you've ever seen. I mean, equipment is like, just like, you had to like look it up on the internet, like what year it was, because it's so outdated. You got like carpet that looks like crap. You got a shadow box with like all the lures that this guy caught that fish and this fish and that fish on. You got the rod and reel that his grandpa gave him. I mean, this thing is outdated country. And so the buyer's like nervous because the Shine rep is now saying, hey, you want to really outfit this and do all this cool stuff. You want a CT machine. You want this perio machine. You want, you know, updated windows, this, you want all the stuff because that's what you're used to. How much? It's $300,000 for this complete renovation and redo. I'm like, okay, that didn't scare me. So you basically told me you can do the work. You're doing over $60,000 of clinical dentistry. What does this thing do? It grosses $1.2 million. It nets $650,000. There's so much cash here, it's ridiculous. Think about the million. Think about the $100,000 it's due in a month. That's $1.2 million. How much can you do, Johnny? Oh, well, I can do around $60,000 a month. So if I know the practice, I'm looking at the production provider report, and I know the practice is doing 70,000 clinical and 30,000 hygiene. Johnny, you're 10 grand away from running this thing on your own. Have you ever ran this practice, you know, on your own? Is there like a Friday or something that you're running? Yeah. He's been taking off on Thursdays. I run the show on Thursday. How's your day? Oh, it's great. So you can run this business on your own. Yes. Perfect. So let's borrow $900,000, not $600,000, $900,000. Let's borrow. Pay debt on $900,000. You know how much you got to pay a month? I don't know, like about $9,000 a month. So now all of a sudden you got to pay $110,000 a year to the bank. What's it gross? 1.2. What's it net? 650. What's it net after debt service? I don't know, $540,000, and you have the most amazing Taj Mahal you've ever seen with the beautiful floors and you taking off the tackle. It's like it could be in a magazine, and you make 540 grand. Hello, we're buying it. Don't negotiate. Be quiet. Close as soon as possible. So one of the things I talked about from a goal standpoint is you have to understand the deal you're getting into. When it's an amazing deal, shut up and do the deal. If it's not a good deal, let's strategically think about the communication we're going to have with the seller, the broker, whoever, of how we're going to offer something less than what they're trying to ask for, but we're going to do it in a way that makes sense. We're going to have a case presentation that compliments somebody, tells them why this is a bad deal, and compliments them again. And so it's called the sandwich. So I'm good at teaching people how to present something to get what they want. And so I need for you to buy into these concepts. So you're going to have these communication skills with these buyers or these sellers, the brokers. what we learn, get out of school, get the experience, get the cash, go buy a business, listen to the NDP podcast to help to understand the how. Okay, this message is being recorded is going to be, you know, part of the why and the how. And so you make a lot of money with your issues. Taxes. How do you combat taxes? Own the business. Set up a pension plan. Step 6 is going to be paying down our dental school debt. So we talked about all the things that we need to hit on today from our learning objectives. That's the young lady there on my left, which is Christy. She's an owner of this business as well. She started off as an employee, and she's an owner as well. She's done outstanding. She leads this transition team. NDP helps over 100 dentists a year either buy something, value something, or sell something. This is our niche. This is what we do. Now, our Kane Waters brand, Kane Waters is, I own a business. I own a dental practice that does $1 million and I make $450,000. You don't need NDP. You're already an owner. You need Kane Waters because you make a lot of money. So the NDP brand is what it's trying to do, is trying to educate you, build that relationship so you can take the information and use it and go become an owner. Take the information and say, hey, would you look at this information for free? Yes. Send me the deal and we'll coach you through what to get, what to say, and hopefully get you into ownership. So we've also got one of the largest group purchasing organizations in the country. We're able to help you buy down all your supplies, all your equipment. There is not a bigger group purchasing organization in all of dentistry than this Elite Dental. We're growing like crazy there. So our concept is that at Kane Waters, we're trying to just bind all of our buying power as a group and get the best deals from all these manufacturers and suppliers so that you can be super competitive with you know, corporate that's out there today. So that is my message from Avon, Colorado here. And so hopefully I've inspired you guys. You know, I think that I think we're going to do some giveaways here. Mary, is that the plan?
So what we actually do is, if you could see, Caesar, our D1 has been posting attendance forms, and then
Okay.
we go through that. I'll email you their emails, and then we raffle through the attendance form.
Okay.
Yeah, not live, because some people might have like run off to clinic already, or.
No, it's fine. That's perfect. What I want to do is just make sure that we do some type of donation. We'll make that too. Send that to you, and you can raffle that off. We've also got, when you do that raffle, we're known for our, you know, very expensive, nice water bottles. We'll send those directly
I remember from last year.
So you guys do that. If you have some individual, just one-off questions like, hey, I kind of need this advice, or just reach out to one of those email addresses, the info at Kane Waters or the info at National Dental Placements, and we'll set up a coaching time. I've got a big team, and we will truly try to educate you to get through this ownership. Let's see here. All right, well, cool. It looks like we've got some good comments in there, so that's awesome. I'm glad that you learned a lot. Appreciate some of the thank yous, and maybe that was to you, Barry. I don't know if that was me or not, but
No,
anyway, I enjoyed it today. Thank you very much.
People are asking, when do you think you'll get the recorded version over?
It'll be compressed within a day. I'm not a technology guy, but as soon as it's compressed, I'll get that out to you directly. You can forward that out to the teams.
Okay, and I got a question asking, is there a podcast episode about women in ownership?
Well, I got in trouble one time when I said in a big group about women, and so I don't say that, but yes, my colleague Christy has done that. What I would coach you on, let's just say if you're a woman, and I could get myself a little bit in trouble, but let's just say you're a woman and you were married and you had 3 kids and you want to have this work-life balance with kids. What I would tell you to do, and you don't want to take on this $1 million practice, and you don't want to take on that debt and the 4-day commitment and all that grind. What I would tell you is partner with another woman that has similar interests and views, and then merge the practice, together you do this, and now you share, and you're really efficient that 4 or 5 days a week that you're operating, really efficient, because the employees are working really fast and your fixed costs are really good, and you can make good money doing that, and then get your kids out of the house, and eventually maybe you grow, bringing associates in. So yeah, since a woman asked that, I can say that. but I never just want to just say that and then like, oh, I can't believe he just thinking a woman that, would just have kids and not want to work hard. I'm like, okay, lesson learned. Don't ever do that, Charles. I just know that they're just knowing having a daughter and just knowing being older and wiser and learning from women that you guys have different emotions attached to children and what that is. And it's a lot of pressure that you guys have to carry. If you're going to put the business thing on top of it, being a provider, that's a lot of stress. And I get why some people would be hesitant with the ownership route. But I still think there's amazing opportunity. Don't sell yourself short that you can't do it.
Okay, there's a couple questions here. What are the numbers on practice acquisition flopping?
So that's a great question. I'm a unbiased guy. I'd say ask the bank, but I'll tell you what the bank's going to tell you. There is a 99.4% chance that you're successful. That means there's 0.6% chance, according to the banks, not me, to the banks, that you take out a loan, you buy a business that doesn't work. I say that as a really good stat.
As a follow-up, it says, are the numbers better if you acquire in a rural area versus a big metro area?
So has to do with the patient base and has to do with the practice you're purchasing, and has to do with you as well. In the end, if you buy in a metro area and it's a successful practice, it will continue to be successful with you. If you're purchasing in a rural area, your advantages is that you just simply have lower costs. So your employees get paid less, your rent's less. People in the community, typically there's a higher demand for dentistry. So maybe you don't have to do the same, PPO plans that you're doing in a highly competitive area. So in short, your practices that are in rural areas are more profitable, but it's not something like the $1 million practice makes 600,000 here and 200 here. I mean, maybe there's a 5 to 6%, increased value. Maybe you're making 400 and the 450 over here in the rural area and only 400 to 380 in the city, something like that. It's not a major difference, but it's just easier to practice in rural areas because the demand for you is just simply much higher.
So there's a question from a student about when to reach out. Is it best to reach out when we're outside of school, or can we receive coaching prior to graduating?
Yep. So that's why the podcast is there, because I wore myself out with talking on the phone and talking to the student all the same thing over. What would you do in this? How do I find a practice? I'm like, I just said that to the last person. So the podcast is there to get you going. I would say if you're a D4, and I would say if you actually have a practice that you're going to go interview with or talk to, or that you can see this ownership thing is going to happen, then 100% reach out. Typically, we screen who wants to set the coaching call up and just say, what's your situation? I'm a D1. D1, why don't you start listening to the podcast? I've got nothing. It's all going to change for you in 3 years. You might get married. You might go this. As you get closer, if you got something you've got in front of you that we can start to analyze and go through, 100%. Let's get you on the phone. I'll coach you up on what to say on that interview. Thank you cards, how to lock that thing in. So I'd say start with the podcast. And as you get a little closer to finishing your program and you've got something in front of you and you need some help, 100% reach out.